Can I please call in Nostradamus, please?
Yes, I am here.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing good. Could you tell me how old you are today?
I'm 54.
Okay. And how is your day looking?
It was good. I got a sense that I was going to be speaking to my favorite redhead today, so I have been looking forward to this.
I'm excited to talk to you. And I have a couple questions for you,
Yes,
if you don't mind.
I am always looking forward to hearing what you have to quantum with me.
Okay. My first question that I'm going to ask is, um, when you said in our last session that we had connected 8 times. Could you please give me some more clarification on who was connecting and at what times?
hmm Okay, so from my perspective point, we have only connected 6 times beforehand, and this was part of this vehicle's connections. So it is about, uh, let me see. Um, this is our sixth conversation that we have had in total to this date, and it has been the fourth time for you and the sixth time in total for the vehicle.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Uh, could you tell me, let's see, how many times have you connected to, uh, I guess you're using Joe as the vehicle, but um, when you say we have connected 6 times, are you saying we have connected with Joe here also, or just me and you?
It is the combined vehicle and yourself.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much for that clarification. My next question is about your work, about the work that you're doing. Uh, Me and Joe were talking about your work being more like a spiritual Bible than the actual Bible that we have here on Earth about the things just coming true. How you feel about that?
Mm. I do not feel like my work has the content to be able to give people the perspective of spirituality as such. It is merely one fraction of a link of understanding that the metaphysical world and the connections can go in a linear and non-linear timeline as you would perceive it to be. And so you are viewing my work now that it's been translated, and now I am helping you translate it to your current timeline. It is foreseen information which has been hidden from the public with the true integrity and content that I wanted to reach out to you and to Dolores. So I would not perceive it myself as being the spiritual Bible or spiritual content, but that is from my perspective as I am now.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Um, uh, Knowing about the timeline now, uh, in your timeline, how does that affect your work now? Now that you kind of talk to us and you know what timeline we're on now.
Mm, right. Yes, the timeline that you're on now is one of much positivity and one of much hope and progress. towards a unity that has always been hoped for humanity. So makes me feel very glad for you. But it also makes it feel so distant and abstract as well, because I'm still getting quadrants, I'm still getting visions and senses that I'm still taking notes of and writing. And I'm still seeing the full range. So, from my perspective, this gives me great hope that it all comes to fruition for humanity through what you are telling me and showing me. But I have still a lot of work to do to be able to unfold how to help humanity navigate towards that.
Okay. Um, so even though you know the timeline, you are still doing quadrants for other um,
Other possibilities, yes, I
other
must.
possibilities within within any timeline.
Yes, I get the visions, I get the senses, and it's so important. And I just continue on doing my work. I am afraid to stop doing my work because I feel like I must keep doing what I'm given. When I'm in my meditative state, the information that I get, I must still honor, even though I know what you're telling me is your truth of your positive timeline. It's still from this perspective of humanity, from humanity getting from me to you. There's still much work that needs to be done. I wanted to see what was the triggers to help awaken humanity for your timeline, but there's still some tricky things. If I had written positive timeline information, it still may not have occurred. There's still this, from my perspective, there's still so many options, and I cannot have the arrogance to assume that your timelines always would have been the possible timeline. So even though we're connecting right now directly, and it is, from my perspective, I must still honor the information that I am getting to be able to help you to get to where you're at. If I limit my information and just give up, there may not be the other information to help you get to that point of where you're at. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, that makes sense for me.
Mhm. And so, what gives me great hope, because it is a struggle. It is very hard to see such confusing visions and senses, because, as I have already expressed many times before to you now, that my this is his higher self coming in now, his subconscious, to saying that he always got a sense of his purpose that was really important, but he didn't understand it. But he just kept honoring the work because he was often getting divine wisdom to be given the information he saw. He's actually had quite a hard life to accept the stuff he has seen and not throw it away and dismiss it. He has been trained to accept the visions he has got and to do it, the work he is supposed to do. That was his life purpose. And every time he was starting to give up, every time he started to lose hope that this was ever going to be helpful, he is a man at a desk with a candle, writing in the dark, in the cold, still trying to map out his work, his senses, but in a way that it would be hidden from the masses. So when it was able in appropriate time, his warning messages could be heard. There is so much that hasn't come out to your modern day, that his warnings could not have been picked up by all. Lots were lost, lots have been hidden and held back. However, we do not need, you do not need him and his quadrants to get the information. This is a stepping stone. We don't want him to know that, because we need to keep giving him the faith and the encouragement to keep going with his life purpose, to keep going and to never lose hope, and trusting that he is part of the greater good to help humanity. even though it seems so far reach from him, even though he can't really ascertain or comprehend the benefits of his work today for him. And so this is a great message for all. What you each are doing today, how is that going to be the ramifications of your actions today? How is that going to amplify out to the world? Is it a kind message? Is it a kind gesture or thought? Is it a prayer to help humanity with unconditional love and compassion? What are you doing today to be able to make humanity a better place? And we always try to encourage you. Always, we always have with every single message to be able to help humanity by profoundly loving yourself and loving others, because that alone can shift. We want to say some sort of cliche statement right now. We don't quite know which one you would prefer. So we have distracted ourselves with an analogy that we can't find. But that is not the point. The point is, and we have stepped into this conversation and we've taken out the consciousness of the man because he can't answer the questions you were asking. His life purpose, as we expressed, was to keep being encouraged. And every time he felt like he wanted to give up hope, he had his friends from the future come in and support him and encourage him and confirm to him what his visions are is not the hallucinations of a madman. We will return him now.
Thank you so much.
Yes. What were we talking about?
Welcome back. My next question is, I want to know why you think, or yeah, why we uh drawn to you now at this point in time on the timeline. Like, why now?
Obviously, it's because of my fantastic personality and charm. Obviously, Madame, obviously it is because of that. Well, I don't understand the charm that you have over me, and you don't understand the charm that I have over you, and it's a mutual balance. We are interested in finding out each other's truths, and so this is interesting for both of us. I have fun exploring your worlds as much as you enjoy my world and my work.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Uh, do you have any questions about our timeline that you don't see, that you are curious about?
Hmm. It is interesting. It is interesting the same behavior that has happened throughout humanity and that is still being happening in your time. The peer pressures and the social constructs still ring on, and um, it is interesting. While you don't have soldiers that will kill you on the streets, you do have other things. I want to be trendy now and say something that makes me sound so cool and hip. A dislike button would be the same as being slaughtered on the streets for your fragile egos in your social media world, and that would be so scary for you, or so afraid for you to have such retaliation. But merely, there are so many people who I'm seeing have got blocks in their throats. They can't speak for themselves. They can't speak for their feelings. They still so scared to own their truths and share their truths. In my time, if that was occurring, you would be sent to the gallows. You would not be able to, survive another day, shall we say? So, you would have to be very well positioned in society to be able to get away with much. So it's interesting that you have all this freedom to be able to share your voices, share your opinions. And while I see that there is some small censorship, There's many other clever ways you can get around that. So it is interesting you're still behaving as if your life depended on you keeping quiet.
That's a very good message.
Hmm.
Thank you for that.
I get a like button for that.
You get a like button for that. It's a great reflecting answer. Let's see what else I have. Can you see our shift coming up?
Mm. Yes, the great conscious shift, but it also is so much more because when you have your conscious shift, you're shifting all and everything. So it is something that I was pondering and couldn't quite understand how there was that leap, and it seemed like so much had changed, but I wasn't able to see because I couldn't navigate and predict the visions I could demand. I was given what I was given, and I was grateful for that, but also traumatized at the same time when I was still trying to process that information and put it into place and figure out how to explain my nightmares, shall we say, and confusions into words that were not going to get me executed. So, yes, it was interesting to reflect back on uh, this now from your perspective, as you say. You are shifting to a completely different planet, which makes me think how much more challenging would this planet have to experience to get from me to you. And so it is interesting because I feel like I haven't got given all the information as I have seen in visions. And while I do now enjoy seeing different scenarios and different experiences, I do suspect I'm not showing as much as I could, and there is missing gaps for me. So it is very interesting indeed, what I do get to see and what I don't. And so now I am seeing some smaller pieces of my bigger puzzle fitting in quite nicely from you ladies, from the conversations that we have had.
Awesome. Yes, awesome. Um, Thank you for that. Um, could you do you see any events, uh, any events in general before the shift or after the shift that would fall within your work or your realm of work?
Mm. Well, does a birthday for you uh, fall into the realm of disaster and challenges to be alert? And some people do get blue on their birthdays. So, how about you? This is something that is going to make you challenge? No, I am playing now. I find myself very amused with the conversations that we have because I feel so free to speak. And I'm still spending most of my time scanning the speckles consciousness to see what else I can scavenge for my own interest. It's very amusing. So I will do what you ask because I want to honor our relationship that we have. So I am playing. So I am focusing now on what challenges could humanity have? For the people who have ego, challenged, they will be challenged with not knowing what has been right in front of them the whole time. So there is no natural, oh, sorry, there is going to be natural disasters, and there will possibly be man-made disasters around all of those. But those are purposeful. They are not going to be terrorism to mass extents. You're literally on a holding pause, waiting for everything to be slowly disclosed, which is quite interesting because now I'm scanning all of the what is going to be slowly disclosed. So I am scanning more uh, because it is very interesting. I did get the sense of the outlines and more information about the one big antichrist who was foreseen in my visions. And then, of course, the other versions, the other smaller, shall we say, different break-offs of the antichrist, because there was the job could never be done by one man. It was an organization, shall we say, a little group of people who wanted to be more powerful than any man should deserve without uh, having humanity's best interests at heart. So it's very interesting experiencing and exploring this information, seeing it all unfold now. So the smaller versions, shall I say, the alternatives of the Antichrists, the many others. There was a timeline where there was going to be one Antichrist that was big, powerful, explosive, and was not going to be able to survive for much of his reign, of terror, and so that was going to help humanity shake out from that and reset after his demise. And that was predicted to be much earlier than your time. So now this is why you are still waiting for these resets, because you had smaller but many other versions of the Antichrist. And so it seems like this was the nicest way to experience it, but for those who are impatient, the most hardest. However, if you had to balance being patient versus tortured and profoundly traumatized by how the big Antichrist wanted to lead his life, you would be quite happy to just be patient and keep quiet.
Thank you for that perspective. Um, it's a good perspective. Different way to look at the situation now that we don't have here. Well, not where I'm at on this timeline.
Yeah. Very tremendous different timelines. The one with the true big Antichrist was one of such terror. And this is what kept me up and so concerned for the most, to think that the future for humanity was going to be having to experience such a monster, but still human at the same time. So that's my judgment of what I could sense and see. Then, because I wasn't getting my information in a nice, easy, linear way, I was getting my information all hickledy pickledy, Arthur Martha. Oh, where did that come from? So it's all different. It wasn't nicely given to me in a beautiful book from A to Z. It was all different types. So this is why I had to start noting it all down, because I was given different visions of different timelines, different times, and it just was this vehicle's conversation analogy would be a hot mess. Interesting. It didn't feel like hot, no, it didn't feel like a mess, but it felt like it was inconsistently more jumbled than it should have been. So I wanted to be able to take notes of it. And so I had to take notes of my own visions, but have to make code of it for myself. So I could read it and know exactly what it is, but other people snooping through my stuff could not see what I was getting, because that obviously must have been from a delusional man. I did not feel like I was delusional.
I don't feel you're delusional. Just to throw that out there.
my charm. It's because of my personality that you keep coming back to me.
These conversations are very fun. Um,
I have a wife, you know. But
okay, do
yeah,
what?
I have a wife, but she and she is lovely and all and socially accepted. But yes, there is something intriguing about our conversations.
Oh, I'm very glad. Let's see what else questions we can get into. Um, wow, this is so interesting. This whole conversation. Um, why do you see that we talking about what you just said? This is going to go with this. Um, my question is, why do you see that we need to shift? Especially after what you just said, we were on a timeline where it was going to be a lot worse, or there is a timeline there was a lot worse. So I understand a shift, since it's this is the would you say the nicer way or the more gentle way to get here? Why do you see that we need to shift still?
Hmm. So, from the information I have received from my visions and the information I'm collecting from this vehicle, the reason why you need to shift is because the humanity hasn't shifted in its addiction to negativity. So, there is that as well as all the pollution. So, there's that and also because of the planet's consciousness. So there's that. And then natural cycles for everything. Everything has a beginning and an end. And so there's that. And I can see from just the small information I have got that has now started to get bigger pieces to how I saw your timeline, where there was that jump in consciousnesses that just seemed like very advanced, but it really isn't that advanced. I was assuming it must have been many years beyond. But it really couldn't have been. It's a very strange for me to see that and sense that.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you for that. Um, I have a couple quadrants I would like to ask you about.
Mhm.
The first one is it says, the great credit of gold and abundance of silver will cause honor to be blinded by lust. Do you want me to read the whole thing or just stop once?
Read the whole thing and then I can hear it sentence for sentence.
Okay. And the next part is, the offense of the adulterer will become known, which will occur to his great dishonor.
Okay. So this is interesting. This would be about the financial reset that you're about to experience. So this is definitely one that can be connected to your timeline. So the money. Read the first part so I can explain it a little bit more.
The great credit of gold and abundance of silver will cause honor to be blinded by lust.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think that's pretty self-explanatory in terms of how financial addictions to materialism and uh, what the illusion of being rich can provide for you. So it does produce lust, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
So then the adulterer. Well, there's many big people who have had adulterations. Is that a word? Adulterations. I guess if they've had many. For people who have stepped out on their wives, there are many who are in your current timeline. who are big names. But when I could sense that there was someone stepping out on their wife, that was scandalous, absolutely scandalous. So now I see that you have multiple marriages, multiple relationships, and that's definitely not in my time. That would be shocking. So, hmm, I'm trying to see if I should scan and see who that is referring to. I don't think too many people would be shocked with adultery at this point in your timeline.
I think out of all the other stuff, this would be a little low on that totem pole.
Yeah, but even just when you start hoarding, when you start collecting and feeling like you need to have lots of money, lots of silver, lots of gold, lots of anything, you have a belief system that there is a lack of it. And so you're wanting to keep it all to yourself as much as you can in fear that it's not going to be possible to have any more. And as you know, even if you did have a vault of gold, if you still were afraid that it was going to run out, what would you be manifesting? What's the results of that manifestation? Instead of being happy with what you've got and know that there is abundance for you. It is not yeah, collecting and hoarding is not potentially the results of someone who knows how abundance works.
Okay. Thank you so much. Do you see um, anything regarding space? The space. Uh, it's mentioned in one of Dolores's book. You both were talking about a wage of war from space. I believe that's a different timeline at this point, but what do you see as far as space and
Hmm. Well, I did see many different beings from my future, from my perspective. So you were all completely, you were all, uh, yeah, you could have all been a spaceman for all I could. You were in a completely different world, and even though I knew that you were going to be on my current world planet, and you were habitating it, a few 500 centuries beyond, it still was like completely different worlds. So for me, I kind of didn't really. The church would have frowned upon this information, but the church would have frowned upon all of the information that I was receiving and experiencing. So I did sense that there was discord in the galactic connection. It did seem like um, I was presented it as if the gods were warring. And of course, I was aware of the Greek and Roman mythology, but it did not seem like it was those. It seemed like it was um, different beings that weren't Zeus or Hera. It was something else. And so I did note it down because it felt like, very, very far away from me, that there was some information and some conflict, and that we were, our humanity was potentially going to be exposed to some other beings wanting to control us, and want to imprint their agenda onto us. However, ironically, um, the higher self is kicking in now and saying that it was actually a past that had already happened in his timeline. And it actually was the battle between the Council of the Federation, the Galactic Federation, was having a battle with um, other beings that wanted to come onto this planet to be able to habitate it, and they demanded that they should do so. They felt like they had free will to be able to do that and rights. However, humanity was already at an interesting time, and was being protected, and so there was firm protection placed on. They were denied the access. So he does get, as he just explained, he does get many visions, but he doesn't get. And on this date in 2012, on the 15th of July, on a Wednesday, which is a beautiful day and sunny, for example, he doesn't get those things, which was very challenging for him to be able to place it all on. So he assumed, bless his belief systems, that what he was seeing was in his future, but it actually had already been a past.
All right, thank you for that clarification.
We will step him back in again.
Welcome back.
You keep saying that, and I'm still always here.
In our conversation, you are coming and going
Hmm.
on this day.
Is this unreliable internet that I keep hearing about?
Your higher consciousness wanted to say a few things.
And so, give me the perspective of what my higher consciousness is.
Some of the information has already happened in your past for you, and then another part where your higher consciousness stepped in was to just talk about your purpose and the information that you were getting, and the hope that that you should still have for humanity, the positivity, the hope in those hard times that you come to during your days. Um, there is hope there in the future.
Hmm. I just also scanned this vehicle to see and sense what the subconscious and the higher self is. And so now I am updated.
Okay, I was like, they'll probably do way better than I did.
No, it's interesting to ponder that, because my belief system is that when I was connecting, it was to God. And so now I have just scanned through to learn that who I was actually connecting in with was not just, in quotation marks, God, because there is no such one being that is labeled God. So I've just explored that.
Beautiful. How beautiful. I'm grateful to be here today to experience that with you. Let's see, the next quadrant that I have, it says, born beneath the shadows on a dark day, he will be sovereign in ruling and in goodness. He will cause his blood to revive the ancient urn, renewing the century of gold for one of brass.
Hmm. Okay. Can you start from the beginning?
Yes. Born beneath the shadows on a dark day, he will be sovereign in ruling and in goodness.
Nice. Yes, so you did have many good humanitarians that were born who did need to be born in the shadows of distraction. And so you have many men and females who are here now born to be able to serve for great humanitarian purposes. So this is talking about those. Can you continue?
The next part is he will cause his blood to revive the ancient urn, renewing the century of gold for one of brass.
Okay, so this is where well, it is an analogy of saying that Christ is coming to return, the second coming. Um, but it is not Jesus being reincarnated. It is merely about talking about how um, there's many things there, but the blood lines will be pure and will replenish the Holy Grail. But it is not physically going to touch the Holy Grail. It is an analogy. No, it's not an analogy. It's a symbolism. It's a symbolism of Christ's consciousness coming back to Earth and to be able to empower humanity once again. But I can see that there are many beings here doing that. It is not just one, it is many who have the opportunity to empower themselves to that position.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much.
The
Uh,
shifting, the shifting to the gold from brass. Was it brass?
yes.
Okay, so that is a reference to your shift.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Um, have you talked to anyone? Uh, how's it put? Anyone in a future beyond my timeline at this point? Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand what you're asking. And I would not believe so from this perspective. Um, hmm, Good question. Remembering people do not introduce themselves as I am this person at this date and this time. So
Yeah.
I get a sense of their vision, their energy, the sense of them. So but I'm very aware of who you are. So, from this perspective, I have not spoken to anyone that has reached me in my state because I am still here at my desk. But I am in a meditative state. The higher self wants to come in and say that the higher self is also talking through with him as well and encouraging him to see things from a more current day perspective. So he is learning. His subconscious is working directly with him. It is a lot for him and his body to take on because there is much more density in the planet at the time, and he has to elevate himself with his herbs to be able to get to this state. So it is. He has had some cups of tea that has elevated his consciousness to be able to get him into this higher frequency. His subconscious is helping him with the answers and connections. He is a little bit cheeky with his behavior because he is in a dreamlike state while he is sitting up. He's not asleep. So he is thinking he is having an entertaining dream as such. So this is when his cheekiness comes in, where he can play and not be so serious. But the information he is giving you is the best of his information and knowledge, while we're also supporting him with some of the things he is not able to truly see in perspective. But we are making him have this experience so he can grow from what we're saying. For him to say the stuff that he is saying to you and sense, it is helping him grow. He doesn't often listen to us as such, and so this is a direct way we can connect him and make him hear this. We are returning him now.
Thank you.
So I don't think that I have had any conversations with anyone in the future beyond your time. But I could be wrong, but I have a strong sense that I am right.
Thank you so much. Um, do I want to ask, do you have any quadrants uh, for the future time here? But I don't even know if that's the right question.
Do I have any future quadrants that I can share with you that is about your future timeline?
Maybe that's the question. That's a good question. Let's go with that one.
Yeah. I have got little bits and pieces that I have written down that ascertain to your timeline. But because I'm working on so many other timelines and so many other dates, your timeline doesn't have much information because there is no dire information, like big stuff to warn and protect and remind myself and to have conversations and connections with Dolores. So you don't have any big dramas ahead of you, I'm sorry to say. So I don't have much about you really. Um, Nothing that would help you guide yourself more. Um, um, I don't have much, say, for example, about the new earth and after the shift. Um, Nothing more than what I'm sure you're probably already hearing from other people.
Are you able to see New Earth?
I can see humanity on new earth, and it is strange to see the advancement so much. But I don't get any details beyond that really because there is no drama there. There's nothing for you to warn, so I'm not seeing anything. I just saw a big advancement of the consciousness, so I couldn't see how that happened. Um, I couldn't make that next step, but using this vehicle, I've been able to use the vehicle to be able to help bridge those pieces for me. Um, but I don't see any problems there.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Um,
I think I am just more used to sensing and being aware and having to take note of all of the problems and the big things that are happening that humanity needs to be aware of. I think I'm so in tune of all of that I don't see any worth of really bothering to notice when I see a happy, positive scene because I don't get a sense that that is my role that I need to help humanity with. I think when you're happy, you're fine. You don't need any warning or guidance or direction.
Very true. Um, do you have any messages for Joe today?
Mm. I sense the more she realizes, hmm, how I'm going to say this, the more she realizes that there is nothing. Well, she already knows this, so I'm going to say this to all who is listening. Um, the more you realize there is nothing for you to be afraid of, nothing for you to be aware of and to protect yourself from and plan for and be resistant to because there is nothing in that for your future at all. It's such smooth sailing from here on in. Where did sailing come into this?
Mhm.
So the vehicle does things with my translation and it is bizarre to me. So I'm still going with it. Um, the more you realize humanity is in a great position, the less you will need of me.
Okay. Thank you for that.
It makes me feel sad, but also happy, because I like these conversations. But it also makes me feel like my duty and my job has been done. If you're in such a great place, I hope I'm somehow part of helping humanity navigate through, to help themselves push with positive intent into a safer environment and a safer place.
Well, from my timeline right now, you have done a splendid job with your quadrants and the ones that we have received. They've given a lot of direction, a lot of insight for a lot of me and the people I care about the most right now.
Mm. Well, it was it was something that I just couldn't stop. I was so focused on getting everything down. It took a life of its own, and I was very passionate to make sure I could articulate the visions and information that I was getting, to be able to correctly get that across, with all the restraints and restrictions that I had. And so it does make me feel positive to know that there was purpose to all. So thank you.
Do you have any last words before we part today?
Hmm. Um, I am feeling a little confused because I have, through my nosiness, I guess, and curiosity, explored and sensed that there is something much greater than just God. And so I am perplexed with that. So I'm feeling a little bit melancholy because I don't know how to navigate now, um, through things. But it is something I will work on.
Well, um, I know you'll work through that and find this answer, and hopefully, we will connect soon.
Hmm. Thank you. I'll look forward to it.
Thank you.